Prisons are built on one simple promise: no one gets out. Steel bars, towering walls, armed guards, cameras on every corner. But what if I told you some men looked at those walls not as barriers, but as puzzles waiting to be solved? Tonight, we relive two of the wildest, most mind-bending prison escapes ever recorded. One from the infamous island of Alcatraz, where three men disappeared into the night and into legend. The other, a high-tech operation involving one of the most feared drug lords on Earth, who slipped away through a tunnel like something out of a Hollywood film. But first, if you're fascinated by stories where truth is stranger than fiction, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us keep exploring these unbelievable events, and trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Alcatraz wasn't just a prison, it was a warning. A cold chunk of rock sitting in the middle of San Francisco Bay. Freezing waters, brutal currents, sharp winds that cut into your bones. For decades, people said it was escape-proof. Guards laughed at the idea. The slogan was simple: break the law and you break yourself on the rock. But inside, three men thought differently. Frank Morris, brilliant, calculating, with an IQ reportedly higher than Einstein's. He'd spent most of his life in and out of prisons, and everywhere he went, he studied weaknesses. Then there were John and Clarence Anglin brothers, bank robbers from Georgia, tough as nails but also resourceful. They were farm boys who knew how to work with their hands. Together they hatched a plan that would become legend. Every night, while the prison echoed with the snores and coughs of hundreds of inmates, the trio went to work. They had noticed that the concrete around the ventilation shafts in their cells was rotting soft enough to scrape away. So with spoons stolen from the cafeteria, sharpened on the floor until they were like tiny chisels, they began digging. Picture the scene. Frank Morris crouched by the wall, scraping in rhythm with the music blaring from the communal radio. Every scrape matched a note. Every pause matched the drum beat, hiding the sound from guards. The Anglin brothers collected the crumbled concrete in their pockets and flushed it down the toilets or scattered it in the prison yard. But here's the genius part. When guards did their flashlight rounds, they saw nothing unusual, because the men had created dummy walls, cardboard painted to look exactly like the surrounding concrete, carefully wedged into place to cover the holes. And when it came time to sleep, they didn't just leave empty beds. They sculpted fake heads out of soap, plaster, and toilet paper. They glued on a real human hair stolen from the prison barber shop. Guards would glance in, see what looked like men sleeping peacefully, and keep walking. After months of digging, the men crawled through the holes into a hidden maintenance corridor. There in the dark, they built a workshop. Imagine this: a secret room inside the most secure prison in America. From them, they created life vests and a raft large enough to carry three men across the deadly bay. On the night of June 11, 1962, the escape began. They crawled through the holes, climbed the pipes up to the roof, and crossed the prison yard in silence, hearts pounding with every step. They slid down pipes on the far side of the building, avoiding the floodlights, and reached the shoreline. There they inflated their raft with a stolen concertina, three shadows riding a homemade raft, paddling into the freezing blackness of the San Francisco Bay. By morning, their cells were discovered. Sirens screamed. Guards searched every inch of the island. Helicopters scanned the waves, but the men were gone. The FBI concluded they must have drowned. The currents, the cold, no one could survive. But here's the twist: no bodies were ever recovered. Over the years, whispers grew louder. The Anglin family received mysterious postcards. A photograph surfaced of two men in Brazil who looked eerily similar to the brothers. And in 2013, a letter allegedly written by John Anglin himself claimed, "Yes, we made it. We lived a quiet life." The truth? Still unknown. Did they conquer the rock? Or did the sea swallow them forever? Alcatraz, the prison built on certainty, left us with nothing but mystery. Fast forward more than 50 years. Another prison. Another man who refused to stay locked away. Joaquin Guzman, better known as El Chapo, the ruthless boss of the Sinaloa cartel. A man who built a billion-dollar empire on violence, fear, and drugs. When he was captured in 2014, the Mexican government celebrated. Finally, the monster was behind bars. They put him in Altiplano prison, the most secure facility in Mexico. Cameras monitored his every move. Guards watched him constantly, or so they thought. On July 11, 2015, at 8:52 p.m., El Chapo walked into the shower of his cell. And then, he vanished. At first, guards thought the cameras had malfunctioned, but when they entered his cell, their jaws dropped. Beneath the shower floor was a hole, a tunnel. Not a crude dirt hole, but a fully engineered masterpiece. It was about 1.5 kilometers long, nearly a mile. It had walls reinforced with wood, electric lighting, and a ventilation system to keep the air fresh. And the most insane detail? Inside the tunnel was a modified motorcycle, mounted on rails, used to transport dirt and supplies. The tunnel led straight from beneath El Chapo's shower to a small, nondescript building outside the prison walls. Perfectly aligned, perfectly executed. Think about that. Engineers had to map the exact position of his cell, dig a tunnel with pinpoint precision, and keep it a secret for months, maybe longer. This wasn't just an escape. It was an underground highway. As guards scrambled in panic, El Chapo was already gone, racing through the tunnel to freedom. It was a national humiliation for Mexico. The news exploded around the world. How could the most dangerous man alive vanish under the noses of armed guards? For 6 months, Guzman was a ghost. Rumors placed him in the mountains, in safe houses, even in other countries. He reportedly met with actors and producers, dreaming of a biopic about his life. But in January 2016, the hunt ended. Mexican Marines stormed a safe house in Los Mochis. After a violent gunfight, El Chapo was captured again. Today he sits in ADX Florence, the so-called Alcatraz of the Rockies, in the US no tunnels. No raincoat rafts, no chance. But the image of that shower, the moment a man simply walked in and disappeared into the earth, remains one of the most shocking escapes of all time. 2 escapes, one shrouded in mystery, 3 men who may have beaten the rock, the other an engineering marvel that embarrassed an entire nation. Both stories prove something powerful. No prison is perfect, and as long as there are walls, there will be people willing to test them. Which escape blew your mind more? The unsolved legend of Alcatraz or the high-tech tunnel of El Chapo? Let me know down in the comments. And don't forget, if you enjoyed this story, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because there are plenty more unbelievable stories to come.